So, I saw Kraftwerk live. Jesus, I had an experience. So, to be more specific, I saw Kraftwerk live at the Auditorium Theater in Chicago just a few days ago as of recording this on March 29th. And I had just a blast of an experience, like, honestly. And, yeah, I'm gonna go over it here in this, I guess, this a vlog. I don't know, I never thought I'd be the type of person to make a vlog, but I guess I am now, so yeah. Before I go talking about, like, the concert, though, I should probably talk about just, like, how big this was for me, as well as how hectic of a day I had beforehand. So, this will probably surprise some of y'all, but this is the second concert I've ever been to, like, period. This is the second one. And I know that might be, you know, as I said, that might be pretty surprising. But what can I say? I live in an area that isn't very close to any major, you know, concert spots. The closest one is Chicago, and that's several hours away. Several is a bit much. You know, it's a long drive away. So it's just been really hard to kind of find one to go out to. And also, just like as a college student, I'm still kind of, you know, dipping my toes into this thing called independence and self-sufficiency. So, you know, there's that too. I could not imagine myself making this type of trip like a year ago. So yeah. With that said, this was really big for me. I was going to a city that was far away, pretty damn far away, and you know, I was going with friends too. So yeah, this was a really big day for me. Like, I fucking wore jeans. You know how rare it is for me to wear jeans? But as I mentioned, I was going out there with friends, and I did have to go pick them up, which entailed a lot of driving, which is not helped by the fact that one of my friends got a flat tire in the middle of their drive to where we were all supposed to, you know, meet up. So I had to go and get them in the middle of the highway and help them out with that, and then pick them up, and then bring them all the way out to where I was picking up everyone else. So yeah, lots of driving happened that day, to say the least. Also, we weren't just in Chicago for the concert. We actually made it into a bit of a day trip. We went to some malls. I bought a bunch of stuff. I found this, like, fucking devil, just, like, you know, in an alley somewhere. Pretty cool. And after the malls, we went further, like, you know, downtown Chicago, which, if there's anything about this day that I was really worried about, it was driving in Chicago. With something I told all my friends about beforehand is that the number of hours total in my life that I've spent driving in, like, actual cities could be counted on one hand. Now it can be counted on two, so whew, I just doubled that shit. But yeah, to say the least, driving in downtown Chicago, not a fun experience. I got stuck in, like, 2 major traffic jams. Finding gas was a pain in the ass. All the, like, you know, neighborhoods were super cramped. And you can tell this is a, you know, small town boy going to the big city type scenario, because, like, everything was so big and cramped. It was a very different experience for me. Walking in downtown Chicago, though, was actually pretty cool. We especially went walking around, and we went to the Bean, like around 6 or 7, and it was a really cool experience because, I mean, not only is it the Bean, but it's also, you know, a bunch of fucking tall ass buildings around, and especially on that day, it was getting dark out, but a bunch of the tallest buildings were, or the tops of tallest buildings were obscured by clouds, and it was a really cool experience. I got a bunch of pictures of it, but the pictures don't do it justice. It was just really cool kind of being in that environment. But enough stalling, let's get to the actual concert. So I got to the Auditorium Theater in Chicago where this was happening. It's a very fancy looking place. We made our way to our seats, which were pretty high up. I got a couple of seats in one of the balcony sections, so we got a pretty good view from a distance, but not too far. That's pretty far. And we actually got there like pretty early. Like I wanted to get there even earlier, but the time we did get there was pretty early that we had quite a bit of waiting time until the show actually started. In fact, one of my friends got out a deck of cards and we played blackjack while waiting for the show to start and while a bunch of people were coming in and filling in the seats. That was fun. The show started kinda at 8 when they put, their 4 pedestal logo up on screen and started playing some pretty dark ambient stuff on loop. It was pretty interesting. Creepy shit. It lasted quite a while though. They did that at 8, and I think the show started proper like 8:15. So we were just kind of waiting there. The show finally started though with Numbers, Computer World, and Computer World 2. And I do gotta say, for some reason, just in my mind, because this is a band originally from the 70s, and also from all the concert footage I saw beforehand, I just got like the perception in my head that they wouldn't be playing very loud. I could not have been more wrong. They played it pretty damn loud. The videos I took did not do it any justice, which, by the way, I did take quite a few pictures and videos of the show. I know some people are like, oh, you should live in the moment. Like, I did live in the moment, but I also made sure to get some pictures and videos for the road, the memories. Trust me, I did actually really, take my time to enjoy the moment. But yeah, the show was pretty damn loud. It wasn't too loud for me, although I don't generally like things that are super loud. Although there were a few moments where things got a bit too loud that I'll mention when I get there. But yeah, the show started with Numbers and Computer World and Computer World 2 all in one little suite. I wasn't really surprised by them starting with it because I think they start all their shows with Numbers, at least from, the research I did for the Kraftwerk videos. And then they followed up Computer World 2 with Home Computer, It's More Fun to Compute. This was also pretty cool, although, expected. I enjoyed it, even if I have said I'm not the craziest fan of those two songs. But yeah, it was still pretty fun. I love the visuals. They're really glitchy, and they're different from the ones that I spent like hours staring at while making the Tour de Kraftwerk video. But yeah, the glitchy visuals looked really fucking cool, and the song was fun. Next up was Space Lab. It was typical Space Lab, and they did the thing that they usually do, as far as I've seen for Space Lab, where they show, Chicago or the place that they're playing it currently. Specifically, they put like a little pin on Google Earth or some shit where Chicago is, and have like a little satellite going over it. And then they showed like some black and white images of Chicago and the auditorium with the UFO landing. Not sure why the images are black and white, but it's just cool kind of seeing the UFO land right outside the auditorium. And one of my friends leaned over to me and was like, do you mean that if I go outside right now there's going to be one there? I was like, yes, definitely. After Space Lab was Airwaves, which was really fun. However, next was Tango. Yes, they played Tango. I know they like play tango more in recent years. However, that doesn't mean it was a given. I didn't really expect to see tango. And you know, I could have looked like at the set list for the tour beforehand, but like, you know, why the fuck would I spoil that for myself? So seeing them play tango was really cool. Even if, you know, I don't think it's the most exciting song, I was just really happy to see them play it, especially because, you know, it's an unreleased song that they only ever play live. After that was the Man Machine. It was awesome. They had the usual visuals. Yeah, and they also had Electric Cafe, which is one of the, I guess, cuts they just kind of used to add some variety to the track list. It was nice. That's all I really have to say about Electric Cafe's inclusion. It was nice. There was also Autobahn, which probably got the biggest, you know, response from the audience of the entire show, which isn't surprising. It is Autobahn. It was shorter than I expected it to be, though, because, I mean, they have, like, done pretty short renditions of it in concerts, as far as I know, but I don't know, I was really expecting them just to do the 14-minute version that is on 3D the catalog, but, you know, I'm not complaining. I think it was a decent length. There was Computer Love, too, that came right after. You know, I already love Computer Love, so obviously I was really excited to, you know, see it play live. They changed up the visuals for it, which was cool. However, I did have some issues with this performance. First of all, Ralph's singing just kind of sounded awkward. However, what was really distracting was the fact that the clicking sound that you usually hear in this modern version of Computer Love sounded really raw. Like, there was no effects on it at all. It was like playing at full volume, and it was just a clicking sound on loop. It's kind of hard to describe, but it was just really raw, and it almost sounded like a glitch. But I actually, like, went to other recordings of previous shows so far in this tour, and they all have the same weird raw clicking sound. In the video I recorded for it, it's, you know, it's in there, but it's not as prevalent. So I highly suggest going and finding other recordings of Computer Love during this tour to see for yourself, because it is really weird and distracting, and I am not a fan of that change. However, it's still Computer Love. One of my friends really loved it, and of course I love Computer Love as well, even if it's kinda weird in a few ways. So yeah. After that was The Model. It was definitely interesting. I never really thought about it before, but it is interesting kind of seeing like all the visuals they do for all the other numbers, but when The Model comes on, it's pretty much just the music video with all those old videos of these models in the wackiest looking clothes ever. It definitely kind of looked weird. I did think it was pretty cool how it sounded a lot like the minimum maximum version rather than, you know, the 3D the catalog version. A lot of these mixes so far have been kind of what I've expected. Very similar to 3D the catalog, which is fine. I thought it was kind of cool that they went to a rendition from Minimum Maximum, you know, this album from 20 fucking years ago. After The Model was another Man Machine cut in Neon Lights. It's Neon Lights, what can I say? It was really nice. I liked it. I think this would be a good time, though, to start talking about some of the glitches I saw during this show. There were quite a few. You know, there was one moment when the screen went out for like a second. I remember after, I think it was Home Computer, they had to take like a short minute-long break for someone to come on stage with a flashlight to inspect Ralph's pedestal just to make sure everything was working. However, I think the most obvious glitch, and apparently this happens at like all their shows, or at least all the shows in the tour so far, but the biggest glitch I noticed was the right side of Ralph's suit, my right side of Ralph's suit, was like flickering the entire show. And I mention that now because it was specifically prevalent during the neon lights segment, and I captured it in the short video I took of it. After neon lights was Geiger counter and radioactivity. Hype. It was very hype. And it was also very loud. Like, obviously it's radioactivity, it's the big epic song, so it's gonna be a bit louder than the other. It's gonna be a bit louder than Electric Cafe is what I'm saying, but it was kind of a bit too loud, especially the Morse code, which like I had to cover my ears when my friends had to cover their ears too. The Morse code in that song was just so piercing. Ugh. Besides that, I really enjoyed Radioactivity. Then there was the Tour de France suite, and that was great. Of course, I always love seeing a top two because it's my favorite Kraftwerk song, but also like the rest of the suite was just really cool. It flowed together really well. The visuals are awesome, and I don't just mean like, the archival Tour de France footage that they show for Tour de France and like the new stuff that they have for a top two, but there's also like the visuals for a top three in Chrono, which beforehand, at least for 3D the catalog, was just a bunch of like, I don't know, what the fuck are they called? I use them all the time, but like what are they called where they go up and down with the music? It's not coming to me right now, but they had that, and it was kind of boring. However, for this one, they actually spiced things up by like adding more layers to it and like moving it around and like rotating it. I thought that was really cool. And the fact that, Chrono and the top three were pretty short helped with that quite a bit too. Yeah, one of my favorite moments from the show was that suite though. I gotta be honest.
Oh, it looks so cool.
Wow. After that was another deep cut in La Forme. Jeez, this one was unexpectedly loud. La Forme is already kind of a chill out cut, which, nothing wrong with that. But like the bass, oh my god. Like 90% of that song was just bass. They had that shit boosted. This was like the only other time besides Radioactivity where I thought like, okay, this is kind of a bit too loud. In fact, I think like the prominence of the bass in the mix on that song was, kind of to its detriment, at least when it was played live that night. But I really like the visuals for it. They actually kind of spiced them up a bit, which is nice. After that was Trans-Europe Express and its, suite with Metal on Metal and Abzug. That was fun. Not just because, it's Trans-Europe Express, but also because one of my friends actually recognized it. I didn't think they knew any Kraftwerk before this, but they actually recognized that song, so that was also really cool. But it was a jam. I also do have to mention just something that happened during the show that was very distracting, because it happened during Metal on Metal, was that someone just got like a balloon out and just started, bouncing all over the place, which, is not rare for concerts. I've only been to 2, but I know that that's not rare. However, considering the band and considering the venue, it was kind of unexpected, and it was also very hard to ignore, because it was literally there's literally just one balloon just bouncing around, and they like bounced it up like really high. I can imagine for the people like below the balcony, it would have actually been really distracting, because it was going pretty high and probably getting in the way of the screen and stuff. Or it first came out during Autobahn, and then it kind of disappeared for a while, and then it came back again during Metal on Metal. I caught it on video. I'm not sure what happened. Like, I guess someone just inflated a balloon in the middle of this very fancy theater, and either it was taken and they made a new one, or they just someone just held on to it for a while and thought like, oh, Metal on Metal, I gotta release it now. Now we're reaching almost the end of the show, but after that was the Robots. It was really fun. The Robots is always fun. It was really similar to the 3D, the catalog version. Same thing with the visuals. I think it was the same thing that they have on their channel, maybe a little bit different, but that's always fun. After that was Planet of Visions, which was Planet of Visions. For some reason, I was kind of expecting them to, replace Detroit with Chicago. We So Electric. They didn't. I was kind of stupid for thinking that, but, man can dream. But yeah, it was Planet of Visions. Nothing too crazy there. Fun track, nonetheless. And then the show ended with Boing Boom Chock, Technopop, and Music Nonstop. Boing Boom Chock and Technopop were fine. The renditions might have, I don't know, might have gone on a bit too long. I didn't really like the sound of Technopop. If you've seen my Tour de Kraftwerk video, I really like some of the sounds on the original version. And Music Nonstop, I've praised the live version before, and I was really excited to see them do the solos and the walk-off, and I was not disappointed. I got it on video too. One of my friends thought it was really awesome, and I thought it's really awesome because that's just a really cool way to walk off. But yeah, after all of them walked off, the show was over. And you know what? I really gotta be honest here. It was fucking awesome. What can I say? It was Kraftwerk. And I did go into the show kind of, predicting a lot of things, but there's also a lot of surprises and a lot of stuff I was really excited to see. It was just really awesome to kind of get that full experience. Kraftwerk in person, the visuals, the loud sound, just everything. It was awesome. However, I do have some complaints, mostly with the overall sound, or at least the acoustics. I'm not sure if it was specifically just where I was sitting, but I feel like a lot of the sound was kind of muddled or hard to hear, especially lyrics. You know, obviously stuff like the beats, the bass, clear as day. Some of the melodies were kind of hard to parse, but the vocals were really hard to kind of even hear at times. If it wasn't for the fact that I was so familiar with Kraftwerk already, and if it wasn't for the fact that they put all the lyrics on the screen, I wouldn't have had any idea what the fuck they were saying. It was really it was really hard to hear those lyrics. But besides that, I really thought it was an awesome experience. Right after the show ended, I went immediately to the merch booth where I got, this Man Machine shirt. Fuck yeah, and my head's been blocking it the entire time, but I also got that poster. Yeah, and I moved the poster that was there originally. It's over there now. Whoa, yeah, fucking revolutionary stuff right here. I mean, there was no way I was gonna leave without, draining my wallet a little more. But I'm really happy to have this stuff now, because, I was gonna get a shirt for sure. However, I went up there and I was like, you know what? Poster. And yeah, then after that, we went to go leave Chicago, got into another traffic jam, and then I spent 4 hours driving. Not a fun experience, but it was fucking worth it. This whole experience, just going to Chicago and seeing Kraftwerk, was really awesome. I'm really glad that I did it, and also just happy that I made it work. As I mentioned earlier, I would not have even come close to imagining doing this a year ago, so this is also a bit of personal growth for me in my, autonomy. But yeah, I love the day, I love the show, it was so fucking worth it. If you have not seen Kraftwerk live or have some inhibitions about it, just go watch them. It's gonna be a blast. And that's basically it. So yeah, I had fun.